Hello everybody, Steph Haynes here. Hope you're doing well. I'm doing really well. I want to start this video by thanking everybody who's bought Electro Wins Volume 1 so far. That's really exciting for me. And hopefully this video won't impact sales too much because I'm going to show you how I made some of the patches that are included in the preset pack. Or at least I'm going to show you how to make a very basic version of some of these patches. If I can, I want to take some of the mystery out of sound design for digital wind instruments because it's really not too hard. And also it's a lot of fun to just make your own sounds. So Vital's a really good place to start because it's free, and also it's a very visual synthesizer. You can really see everything that's going on, so that makes everything a little bit easier to understand. So let me just start by initializing this preset. So now we have something totally blank, and if we play it, it sounds like this. Wow, really awful. So we can make this into a functional wind controller preset pretty quickly by adding a filter. So let's go over here, enable filter 1. Okay, so now we need to control this filter with our breath control. So right now I'll just control it with the mouse and you can hear what that sounds like. So we just need to do that with breath control instead of mouse control. So that's pretty easy. To do that, we have a couple of options in Vital. So I've already went ahead and mapped macro 1 to CC number 1 by right-clicking on it and learn MIDI assignment, blowing into my instrument, etc. So I'll show you two ways to do this. First way, you can go into the matrix. So this is the modulation matrix. A lot of synths have these. A lot of synths don't have this, but Vital does, and that's great. So I can go and I can select macro 1, and then I can select the destination. So right now I'm saying, macro 1, I want you to control filter number 1. And what aspect of filter number 1 do I want to control? The cutoff. So basically, that is the brightness, more or less, the brightness and darkness. So you can think of it this way. This is like a graph, and over here we have low frequencies, and over here we have high frequencies. So the more we blow, the more high frequencies we want to have in our sound, so that, you know, it sounds brighter, there's a little bit more energy, it kind of responds like an acoustic wind instrument. So anyway, back to the matrix. How much do we want macro 1 to affect filter cutoff? A lot. We want it to affect it 100%. So we're going to put it 100% this way. And yeah, let's just see what that sounds like. Pretty good, but we could get a little bit more expression if we started the filter a little bit more in this direction. So we're just going to do that. We're going to slide it all the way this way. And there you have it. You've got a really, really simple sawtooth synthesizer patch using subtractive synthesis to get a little bit of expression. I'm just going to add a little bit of glide that will nicely disguise any shortcomings in my technique. Yeah, let's have the 0.036 seconds. Oh, that doesn't sound quite right, and that's because we've got polyphony going on. So over here in voices, we've got this number 8, and that just means that 8 notes can play at the same time without cutting off any other notes. That's not really necessary for a lot of wind controller presets, so I'm just gonna turn that down to 1, because really, practically, I can only play 1 note at a time. No, that still doesn't sound quite right. And that's because over here, I need to select legato. So yeah, that sounds just how I like it. And truthfully, this is one of the presets that I have in my preset pack. I called it like simple saw or something like that because yeah, it's dead simple. So yeah, this is a type of synthesis called subtractive synthesis because we're using this filter to filter out or subtract some of the frequencies in the sound, and that's how we're shaping the sound. To that effect, if we want to get a little bit more advanced here, we have a bunch of different types of filters, and they all sound a little bit different. 12 dB is describing the slope here at the edge of the filter that you can just kind of see the edge of. So 12 dB is not that steep, 24 dB is a lot more steep, and it'll have a little bit of a different sound. So we've got a couple of other controls on this filter guy, which are pretty interesting. So I'll just move this a little bit so we can see. This is resonance. So if we turn that all the way up, you can see that it sounds way different. So you might like that or you might not. You might want to turn it all the way down. That's kind of more of a pure sound. I'll put it back in the middle. And let's see, drive. That's how much the filter will distort the sound. So you can experiment with that as well. And yeah, that's your basic subtractive patch. If we go over here, we can pick a different waveform. So I'm just hitting right. So we got basic shapes, and we can scroll through our basic shapes using this control over here, waveframe. And there's some really nice shapes in here. The filter won't affect the sine wave too much because it's such a pure sound with no overtones. It's only the fundamental. If you know some music or acoustic theory, hopefully you understand what I'm saying. If you don't worry about it. Just know that if you want to hear the effect of the filter, you're going to need something a little spikier. So like, triangle wave is actually not that spiky. Can sound nice though. Saw wave, we've already checked that out. Square wave, I really like these. Square wave, also called a pulse wave. You can change the pulse width, so narrower one will sound like this. A little bit more nasally, and then even more nasally. Yeah, kind of nice. Anyway, that is your really basic subtractive patch. So I mentioned earlier that I was going to show you another way to assign controls that doesn't involve the matrix. And personally, I don't like this way quite as much because I like to see everything that's going on in a list form. Maybe that's old school, I don't know, but I'll just initialize the preset and show you the other way just for fun. So I'll turn on filter number 1. So now I want macro 1 to affect filter number 1, so I'm just going to take macro 1 over here, I'm going to click, I'm going to drag it over to the control that I want it to affect. So right now there's a little green line over, it's kind of like going around to these different controls, right? And I want it to be on the bottom one, which is the cutoff frequency. Cool, and so now I can just affect things as normal. So this circle is kind of like the percentage of how much it's going to affect, and you can see that represented with this little green line. Cool, so it's like the same thing that we did in the matrix, just we didn't go over to the matrix tab, and you can see over here that all the changes that we made over here in just like the normal UI are copied into the matrix tab. And that's a cool way to do things. I'm just going to use the matrix tab. Anyway, let's talk about how to add modwheel vibrato to your sound. So going over to the matrix tab, I'm going to say I want LFO1 to affect the pitch of oscillator 1. So I got to find pitch over here. Oh, tuning. Yeah, tuning. That's like, fine pitch. I guess I don't want it to affect the pitch or the transposition because that would be like too wide of a vibrato. So just the tuning is okay. So let's turn this up and see what that sounds like. That's cool. So it's kind of a wide vibrato, and it also only goes in one direction. So what we need to do is we need to hit this little bipolar thing over here. So now it's going to modulate in both directions. So we'll have a vibrato going up and down. That's great. It's kind of slow. So let's go over to LFO1, hit frequency. We can think in terms of tempo if we want to. That's cool. Let's just do that. That's kind of super fast. Let's try 16th notes. Yeah, pretty reasonable, but we don't want this to be happening all the time. We want it only to happen when we use CC1 or the mod wheel control on our controller. So we'll put this back to the center and we'll add another source in the modulation matrix. So we'll go over here, we'll select mod wheel, and what do we want the mod wheel to affect? Well, we actually want it to affect the amount in the modulation matrix, and we can do that by going over here to mod matrix, and then we have to figure out, this is number 2, so we have to figure out modulation 2 amount. Cool. And then we have to turn this all the way up. And then when we use CC number 1 control, and then it should fade in the vibrato just the way that we like it. So you can do that for all of your patches to add a little bit of vibrato. You might have to do it multiple times. You might have to have this like sort of pair of modulations going on for each oscillator so that they all kind of have vibrato going on at the same time, unless you like the way that it sounds with them vibrating, I guess, at different rates. That's cool too. Anyway, that's a really basic subtractive patch, and subtractive patches are cool, but subtractive synthesis is not the only type of synthesis. So let's talk about another really cool type of synthesis, FM synthesis. So I'll just initialize this preset. Cool. So FM synthesis is complicated, and I'm not going to try to explain it all to you, but I'll try and get the basics. First thing I'll say is that it usually uses sine waves. And yeah, there we go, there's a sine wave. And you need at least 2 oscillators. And one oscillator is going to, it's basically going to apply vibrato to this sound wave, and it's going to be so fast that we're going to hear that vibrato as its own note. And if that doesn't make any sense, don't worry. I'm going to show you how to set something like this up really quickly. So as wind controller players, basically we want to control how much this oscillator is going to affect this oscillator, and we want that to be linked to our breath because that's going to give more energy to the sound as we exhale more and less as we pull back with the air. So I'm going to go over here to this little dial. I'm going to say that I want this to frequency modulate oscillator 1. So I want it to change the frequency at whatever rate this is going on. And so then it automatically sets at half. And let's just hear what it sounds like when I play a note and adjust this dial. Yeah, pretty cool, right? And it's something I really love about Vital is you have the little readout over here. And, you know, if you go to the Advanced tab, you can see the analysis of what's going on. So we got our sine wave, and then if we add a little bit of frequency modulation to it from the other oscillator, you can see that we kind of have like sine waves going on within the sine wave. And there's like, you know, some more frequencies going up. And that's pretty cool. Anyway, so there are 3 things that we want to affect with our breath, so let's set that up in the matrix really quick. We're using macro 1. You could use aftertouch if your controller's sending aftertouch, but right now we're using macro 1 just for fun because I didn't use it in the last video. So I want macro 1 to affect the level of oscillator 1. So let's just hear what that sounds like by itself. I'm going to turn off oscillator 2. Yeah, that sounds really bad, and that's because we didn't set this up properly in the matrix. So we want it to affect it a lot. Yeah, so much that we can get some peaking going on. Great. And this is something you can't do in the matrix. We're going to turn the level all the way down so we can get the full range of this volume knob, basically. Yeah, that's a sine wave. We're going to do this to oscillator 2 now. Same thing. Macro 1, oscillator 2, level. Go over here, turn oscillator 2 on, adjust the level. Oh, that's not working. Why? Because we have to go over to the matrix, turn the amount up to max. And I'm going to turn this FM oscillation down. So now we have 2 sine waves happening. Now we want to affect this FM amount so that it is also connected to our breath, so we get this sort of effect going on. But, you know, like better. So we'll go over to the matrix, macro 1, and then we will go to oscillator 2, and then I believe this is frequency morph amount, I believe. We'll try that. Nope, that's this one. We need this one, so we'll go over to the matrix, and we'll just change this to distortion amount. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm sorry, I'm a fraud. There we go, distortion amount. Great. And then let's turn that up to max. I always forget to do that. Great. That sounds really terrible. So we need to tame this a little bit. This is basically adjusting the amount over here. So we'll bring it down to half, and just to prove to you that it's adjusting the amount, we'll go over to the matrix. And look, it's halfway between the center and the maximum. So and there's a really, really basic FM patch. We're getting a little bit loud over here, so we probably want to turn the maximum of this down. I think I discovered that like 80 around 0.8 was like a good spot that more or less kept us from going into the red over here. So with FM synthesis, you can change a lot by changing the pitch of these different oscillators. So sounds not so good. Let's try changing the pitch of this one. So with FM synthesis, the pitch of the various oscillators will affect the sound in a lot of ways. So let's just change this down an octave. If you go by octaves, it'll generally sound pretty good. If you go by anything other than an octave, it might sound really weird. But you know, that's cool too. And you know, as always, let's add some glide. Oh yeah. Legato. Oh, right. We need monophony. Yeah, FM's pretty cool, and it can be really challenging to make stuff sound good with FM, but ultimately, I think it's very rewarding. Okay, finally, let's check out a little bit of wavetable synthesis, and we're gonna cheat a little bit with this one in that we're going to combine it with subtractive. I'll show you what I mean. So let's go ahead and initialize this preset. And so yeah, we got a bunch of really cool shapes here. Yeah, let's check out. Let's check out postmodern pulse. I like this one. I used it a little bit in my preset bank. So check it out. If we use this waveframe over here, then we change the shape of the wave. Actually, let's go saws for days, because that is really interesting, I think. I just really like this movement. It's really fun. So you guessed it, we're going to map our breath to this frame dial slider thingy over here. So to do that, we're going to go over to the matrix. I'm going to say macro 1, and then destination oscillator 1, waveframe. How much? A lot. So yeah, we're changing the shape of the wave with our breath. Very cool. But we're having that issue, you know, that every wind controller player runs into, where they're like, my breath's not affecting the volume. So let's fix that. And there's two ways we can fix that. we can kind of make this sort of like subtractive plus wavetable synthesis by adding a filter, and that's a really good way to do it. I think it sounds really nice, so we'll just do that. And I'm going to do this the quick and easy way by just dragging this macro over the filter, dragging this down, turning this up, and so now we have the movement that is afforded by the filter and by the the shifting wavetable over here. So it's a nice combination. So if you want to be a little bit more puritanical and say that I don't want to mix my types of synthesis, I want my wavetable synthesis to stay wavetable, I don't want any of that subtractive nonsense over here. Okay, fine, let's take out the filter. I'm just going to go ahead and delete this. Or actually, I'm not going to delete it because you can't. I mean, you can if you just do that, but you can't use the delete button. And instead of having macro 1 control filter 1 cutoff, we're going to have it affect the level. And we'll see what that sounds like. It sounds all right. Personally, I like the filter a little bit better. But, it doesn't matter what I like. It matters what you like. So do whatever you want. Have a great time. Experiment with this really awesome free synth. And, you probably don't need to buy my patch bank after watching this whole video. But if you would, I would definitely appreciate it. But, no pressure. All right, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.